Hello, welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The standard disclaimer applies. The thoughts and opinions here are expressed are the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions and comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable or on the Facebook event page. As for introductions, you know me. My name is John Ruark, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957, in Fairfax, Virginia. And I will hand it off to Robert Johnson for his introduction.
Hey everybody, Rob Johnson here from the Whence Came You podcast, past master of Waukegan Lodge, number 78 in Waukegan, Illinois, current secretary. That's it.
Thank you, Robert. Juan, introduce yourself, please.
Hello everybody, Juan Sepulveda here from the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast and the artist behind FreemasonryR.com. Member of Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in super rainy and windy Kissimmee, Florida.
Okay, thank you. Jason.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Richards. I am still the Senior Warden of Acacia Lodge number 16 in good old Clifton, Virginia.
Jason, will you do us the further honor of introducing our special guest for tonight?
Yes, John, I'd love to. We are joined tonight for a very special episode by the wonderful talents of one of the people who you'll recognize if you listen to our audio podcast, because he and I worked together to write and record the intro and outro music to the audio podcast, and that is Brother J.R. McDonald, from the frontman and songwriter for the band Fellowcraft. JR, I will let you introduce yourself and then also allow you to introduce your two esteemed colleagues.
Thanks, Jason. I'm J.R. McDonald, the marshal, sitting marshal for Federal Lodge number 1. I'm also in charge of the Rites and Work Committee, so I run all the lecture and all the ritual practice there. I couldn't be happier to be here. I'm excited. With me is my main man, Brandon Williams, the bass man himself, and Brian Nelson Palmer, also a Mason and a 32nd degree Mason from the Orient of Washington, as well as a federal brother like me as well.
Honored to be here, guys. Absolutely honored. It's Brian.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Brandon, you want to say hi?
Hi. I too am honored to be here as a member of the outside of the Masonry, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys about it today.
You do realize, Brandon, you are our first non-Masonic guest.
Yeah. I could not be more thrilled, to be honest with you. I absolutely love these two guys in the band, and if they're representative of your class of individual, then I mean, I couldn't be happier to meet you folks as well.
None whatsoever. No.
We'll pay you after the episode.
And you do know we call your type profane.
Yes.
Oh, you can't tell him that now. It ruins the surprise.
You can call me profanes, but my friends call me cash. Just make sure to make the checks out to that.
Oh.
Oh, we got jokes.
You have no idea.
This is what rehearsal is like, guys. Welcome.
Oh, good. Hey, so again, thanks, guys, for coming on. I'm glad we got the whole band on here and the IT worked. Let's get into Masonic news for now. And the first thing I wanted to start with was something I brought up last week. Kind of dropped that bomb, and it has had good reception so far, which is a Masonic.
Tennessee.
No, it's not Tennessee. Something more important. It is the ultimate Masonic survey for 2016. You can go to the address here at tinyurl.com/Masonic survey and help me out. I'm the guy putting it together. As a result of my membership statistics research paper, I wanted to go and look beyond what's currently being posted by the Grand Lodges and see what can we do to save the craft. And the way to do that is to look at what makes you guys tick. And so please help me out. Take 10 minutes. That's all it takes. You can even view it on your phone. And go check that out. So again, the address is tinyurl.com/Masonic survey. And I am keeping this open until June 24th. So share this with your brethren in your lodge. Please, if you get a chance, stand up when the Worshipful Master opens for announcements, and help me out by getting this survey out in the hands of the brethren. We've had great reception so far, and I want to make sure that this has a chance to get legs. Next on the topic agenda for this week, let me get my computer.
Tennessee.
What happened in Tennessee, Jason?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
That was the second biggest thing to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
No. Tennessee had their grand annual communication last week. They always seem to pull this crap like a day or two after our episode, so our information is always dated. We think it's a conspiracy on the part of the Grand Lodge of Tennessee. I dare you to prove me wrong. But they went ahead and voted on Thursday to uphold the ban against homosexual members and cohabitors.
Yeah, so this is a big blow. Yeah, big thumbs down for the fraternity as a whole. That there was a chance that there would be amendment to their laws to remove the term promoting homosexuality and replace it with just lewd behavior, lewd conduct, which is in most of the other jurisdictions. But according to some of the reports from people on the floor, that passions prevailed, and we'll have to wait for another year before new membership gets in and the amendment gets a chance to be resolved. This unfortunately then leaves the craft open up for more mixed feelings, more hardship, and more sovereignty issues between the different states of who's going to recognize who, where this is going to go from here. So we've talked about it enough in previous episodes, but it's going to be interesting to see where we go now that this stance has been taken. Any other
and there were casualties on the part of the Grand Line specifically because of this issue.
He was kicked out, right? Like, he didn't leave.
He was voted down from the floor. One of the members of the Grand Line went ahead and tried to pass the amendment, and
passions prevailed. But he's not the only casualty here. We've heard many reports of brethren trying to join other jurisdictions. Chris Hodap shared a link about the Internet Lodge from the United Grand Lodge of England that is open for any Master Mason in good standing. They've had a flood of information headed their way of people who wanted to apply for membership. It's only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to add to that, which segues into the next commentary. Of course, the media is going to be covering all of this. There's no way for us to gather all these feathers and put them back in the pillow. You know, this thing is out.
It's covered in USA Today.
Yeah,
we're done.
But I came across one in particular in the Tennessean, and it has over 100 different comments. Now, I just want to put in perspective for the brothers that are listening, when things like this get out of hand and things like this happen, they become part of the public sphere, and it's going to be discussed among everybody who comes in contact with this. However, people on the outside, they cannot make a distinction whether this was the Grand Lodge of Tennessee or this was the Grand Lodge of Georgia or wherever. The people that are putting comments in there who are not Masons, they're talking about Freemasonry as a whole. So they're saying that we are a good old boy network of bigots and zealots who are not open-minded as we once were. So it's unfortunate that the entire fraternity is having to go through the trouble of being now pigeonholed, or we have to crawl out of this stigma.
Yeah, and so other Grand Lodges are not standing idly by. Robert, why don't you tell us what's going on out of the Grand Lodge of Illinois?
Oh, delightful. Sure. So, Grand Lodge of Illinois, I think they were holding off on making a statement until they actually saw the vote, that they were waiting for the vote, giving them a chance to reverse action. If you got a chance to check out the message from the Grand Lodge of Illinois, our Grand Master is Anthony R. Crocco, and he basically, they came out with a good statement. I thought it was a pretty good one. There were some people who didn't think, of course, some people just think, hey, more words, no action. People are calling all the time. Every lodge who's made a statement, everybody seems to want, just pull the recognition, suspend recognition. And in large part, pulling recognition is fine, but it's like kind of, in this situation, I felt it was almost dealing with a toddler. It's go to your room. Fine, I'll go to my room and I'll stay there forever. You're not going to win when Grand Lodges go, so I'm suspending recognition, and then, for instance, Tennessee said, fine, we're suspending recognition. But I have heard rumors also that Tennessee will be retracting, and they're going to they'll take away the suspension part of California and D.C. But Illinois basically had some interesting things to say. They called what they did is they called it an innovation, which I thought was interesting. They called it discriminatory. They called it a discriminatory innovation, not consistent with Masonic principles. So I thought that was kind of a dig. I mean, if you know ritual and stuff, we specifically call for things about not being innovative, not trying to change the original, purpose of Freemasonry. He acknowledged the Masonic sovereignty of both the jurisdictions to govern themselves and their members, which was interesting because only one other Grand Lodge decided to pipe up about that, which I believe was Wisconsin. And then after he acknowledges their sovereignty, but he goes on to say, he wants to make sure that the actions of those jurisdictions presents a message that is absolutely contrary to Masonry here in Illinois. So I thought it was a good letter to publish. Again, sure, could it go a step further and suspend recognition? Sure. Will that come up at our Grand Lodge sessions in October? It could. Anything can happen. So, yeah, I'm glad Illinois finally weighed in, and I think a lot of the gentlemen in Illinois are finally happy that it came out. It sure was. It felt like forever for a lot of us.
Yeah.
So I see the Grand Lodge system kind of as the United Nations, and with recognition and the limited powers of diplomacy that the UN has, and suspending recognition is kind of like enacting sanctions. And so if you look at Tennessee as the Iran of the Grand Lodges, you're starting to see people be like, yeah, we're going to cut you off economically, but like sanctions in the real world, it's kind of an all or nothing deal, because if you've got Russia not playing ball with everybody else, then there's still economic flow there, and you're limiting the damage that you
Grand
can
Lodge
physically.
Sovereignties do not include nukes, or do they?
Right. Well, it's such an interesting issue, I think, the whole pulling recognition thing, because the more I started thinking about it, the more something that was totally apparent to most people, and we just look past it, is that United Grand Lodge of England, they have one lodge to rule all of the other lodges, all the provinces and stuff. So we don't have that here in the U.S. George GW took it, and he said, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to do it. Maybe he should have.
Yeah, I've heard.
This is why the Articles of Confederation sucked.
Right.
Yeah.
Too much federated power.
All right, let's end on a high note then. The last little piece of Masonic news is a twist of fate, in the sense that over in the great state of Missouri, their Lodge of Research, the Missouri Lodge of Research, has presented an annual Truman Lecture, And this year's Truman Lecturer for 2016 is the grandson of Harry S. Truman. So I think that's kind of a neat thing that brother Clifton Truman Daniel will be actually honoring his grandfather and brother, Harry S. Truman, the character of a Freemason, in his 2016 Truman Lecturer for Missouri. So good job. Very cool. Okay, I think it's now that wonderful time of the evening when we get to everyone's favorite trivia question, which is the Masonic Monday question.
On Tuesday.
Take it away, Jason.
All right. So the hashtag for tonight is "Where's Nick?" But we're going to get into last week's question, which was this famous Freemason, this famous English Freemason who taught us the meaning of Masonry, encouraged members of his lodge to do this at High 12. Your question, who was a famous Freemason and what activity did he promote? And the answer was W.L. Wilmhurst, who encouraged the members of his lodge, the Lodge of Living Stones, number 4957, to participate in a tradition later called the Noonday Prayer. Members were encouraged to shut the world out at noon and divest their minds to better center their lives. Congratulations to Steve Whitaker, William Nair, Glenn Keeker, Joey Boyer, Matt Apple, Mike Hambrecht, Garrett McGinnis, Justin Miller, Rick Vance, Chris Boyce, Mark Roberts, Art Ingersoll, Christopher Croto, and Jonathan Primo. You guys got the correct answer and also sent the correct answer to the correct email address. So that brings us to your question for this week, which is actually an audio-visual question. Nick has posted the old coat of arms for the United Grand Lodge of England and says, the United Grand Lodge of England has one of the most recognizable coat of arms in the world, much better than their new branding effort. Whether it's the cherubim or the ark, the arms is replete with symbolism. Your question, what is the translation of the Hebrew over the ark? What is the translation of the Latin that serves as the Grand Lodge's motto? When you have the name and the answer, send it to masonicmonday@gmail.com with your name, your lodge name, and number. Don't send it to the Masonic Roundtable at gmail.com. Do not post the answer to Facebook. Because if you do, Frank Castle will get shot and killed by the Yakuza, and he will not have his own spin-off series on Netflix. Back to you, John.
Thank you for briefly doing your comic nerd stuff. I appreciate that. Okay, guys, we are very excited to introduce, again, the band Fellowcraft, and thanks again for Jonathan McDonald for coming back on. He's been a guest in at least one other episode, maybe two. And yeah, so
celebrating the craft.
Celebrating the craft. One of our half episodes. So go check that out. And I just wanted to kind of kick things off with a couple questions that I'm sure everyone is asking, which is, how'd you guys get together? And JR, you are still muted, so let's.
I got a technology.
Thanks.
I guess it was about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. I was coming out of a huge transition in my life, one of the biggest that I'd ever had. I was going through divorce. I was going through a lot of like interpersonal stuff, changing my job, changing the weather. And the weather makes it sound like I'm susceptible to the rain, which I suppose I am. But I remembered my first...
Seasonal effectiveness disorder.
I know, right? I remember thinking the happiest that I'd ever been was when I was in a cover band. And I was out in Texas, and I called a couple brothers, ironically Jason Richards initially, right as you were starting the Roundtable, and Brian Nelson Palmer, who were both Masons and friends of mine. And I said, I've always had this idea. I want to, start a band up again and play some music. And you were busy, got caught up with the Roundtable, and it's been a huge success. And I watch it, I listen to it, and Brian and I were just excited to jam. He's like, yeah, man, I'm in. Let's do this. So we met in my apartment on an August in 2014, and Brian had played drums in Florida State and throughout jazz band, and he'll tell you all about that. But he played drums for a long time, and he and I literally just turned up my amplifier, turned on the electric drums, and woke up about half of my building. So.
Yeah, we did, buddy. Yeah, we did. And I got to offer one little addition to that funny story, which is that he did call and talk about it at some point, but the way it actually
no
started...
No swearing. Don't swear.
The way it actually started was a text message at about 12:40 in the morning, a little after midnight, that said, "Hey, I'm starting a band. Are you in?" To which I said, "Hell yeah!" And that's actually... That was the moment at which we decided Fellowcraft was going to start. Was at 12:40 in the morning via text message.
No good decisions happen after midnight, right?
I remember.
One did. This one.
We were sitting in my apartment and we played just once. And Brian's like, "Do you want to?" Brian said something like, "What are you thinking?" I said, "Well, I really think we could get a band together." And Brian's like, "Yeah, totally. What do you want to call it?" And I said, "Dude, Fellowcraft, just off the cuff, right?" And he looked me right in the eyes and he went, "Done." That's the easiest a band name has ever come together in the history of bands.
So I got to ask, that's a really awesome story of how that came to be. How do you explain it when people who are not Masons go, "What the heck is a Fellowcraft?"
I usually...
Great question.
Yeah, let me ask the profane in the room here.
I was going to say, I actually want to hear all three of our answers because I know we've all got different.
All right, let's do it. Start with Brandon.
I mean, my introduction to the group started, as any good relationship does, on Craigslist. So I actually, I had seen some postings by musician friends of mine in the area, one of whom played at the 930 Club last year, so I knew there was some legitimacy there, and I had never been in a band before, but I wanted to, take the old college try, and so I went and auditioned for this group that I literally found because I accessed a post on Facebook, and the post had expired. So I was like, well, I'm committed to this now, so I'm just going to look, I'm going to keyword search for bassist, and Fellowcraft was the first one to pop up. I click into it, I see these two guys' faces, and they're Buy Me Brunch t-shirts that are, fun and punny and everything I could aspire to be. As a member of a band. So I went and played with them. They ended up being the coolest guys, very open to letting me explore the space, as JR calls it, because he's one of the creative types. And then they told me the name of the band was Fellowcraft. And I was like, yeah, we're crafting a fellowship. My brain just kind of took it apart and said, yeah, it's just like any other band name, like Silverchair. Is that about a chair in somebody's house that's silver? No. Or corn with a K. I mean, what does that even mean? So it didn't really get to me until they started talking about Masonry, Freemasonry, and kind of introducing me to the concept little by little. And so I did what any good nerd would do, as I'm among friends here, and I started Googling it. So that was my introduction to it. It was relatively inane, innocuous. It was just a kind of didn't know what it meant, found out they were Masons, and then learned a little bit more from there. And I think a lot of our fans who come in contact with it honestly think the same. They don't automatically go to, oh, that's about a ritual. It's not like they think immediately Catholicism or some religion or some something any deeper than just the two words put together. So
I was going to say, and then you found the Satan videos.
I actually, knowing JR and Brian as well as I do, and having taken a road trip with them in what I believe was a Shriner van, there's no misconception. There's no misconception on this end about anything other than good intentions, up to and including whatever Satan videos I'm going to have to find after this session's over.
And we did an episode on that.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look for that. Hopefully that's the first Google search result that comes up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Two funny things about the name. What the interesting thing, I thought it was going to be a source of conversation a lot, but one of the things that I've noticed is that just like most other band names, when I say we're Fellowcraft, they sort of give me a look, and I say, it's the word fellow and the word craft, but together as one, Fellowcraft, and they say, oh, okay. And then they look us up, and there is no conversation. I would say probably 75% of the time, people just accept that that's what the band name is, and they have no idea that there's any reference at all. And it works out great because it doesn't need to be a conversation. But then for the other 25%, for me, they ask, it's the name is Fellowcraft. Oh, what is that? And I say, well, JR and I are both brothers. We're Freemasons, and Fellowcraft is the second degree in Masonry. So you have 3 degrees. You become a Master Mason when people say they're a Mason, and it's the second of those 3 degrees. And sometimes they give me a little bit of a funny look, but to be honest, I've never had anybody push me beyond that as far as what does it mean, they don't really need more information than that. They've been very accepting. So at least for me, I don't have any crazy stories about the name yet. It's coming, I'm sure. The more we play.
Well, and they haven't awoken yet.
You need merch with the all-seeing eye on it.
Yes.
That'll kickstart everything.
It's funny that you say that, actually. So
just follow Beyonce.
We started, and when we first started, we had the square and compasses in a Fellowcraft setup, right? So we used it as our emblem, and we had a friend from a Grand Lodge contacted us and was like, "Hey, you got to knock that off." So we were like, "All right." We decided to kind of twist it up, and this was right around the time that Brandon joined, and Brian and I were sitting around talking, and my thought with Fellowcraft, which kind of tied into what we changed the logo when we changed our text, was that we're still working. We're workmen. We're guys like on any laborer that's trying to make a change. And we chose this kind of like inset bas relief kind of style text, and we made our emblem just this white F. And that's always been my favorite. When people ask me, I do like Brian.
It stands for Fellowcraft, right?
Many things.
Just making sure.
Friends, family, fun guys. I think for me it's important. So as we grow in popularity, and not just among like my mom and her brother or whomever family members, but in the population. I think it becomes more and more important to not be tied to any really religious or political symbol. We can be religious individuals or political individuals or liberal individuals, against what the lodges that you were describing earlier may have begun to their, the way they've started to interpret the ritual there. But I think the band as a whole, and JR keeps talking to this, needs to be about music. We're about music as an artistic form, music as a form of expression. It may be about themes in our lives that are related to Freemasonry or to any sort of religious or political or life-changing event. But I think we're more about the music specifically with the band, as opposed to really needing to hitch our wagon to it.
Give that guy a petition right now. Have you been accosted? Have you been prompted to think about joining, Brandon?
I don't think I've bugged him yet.
No, that's been the great part about it. There's been no push, and I very much appreciate that.
And JR and I actually have had that conversation once or something. We're like, oh God, we were talking about a rehearsal. It's like, well, we should give Brandon a petition. We should see if he and then it was like, no. We ask one to be one. We are never going to ask. That's not how this works. He knows that he's in a band with 2 amazing dudes, and he's got a perfect resource should he be interested in that stuff.
I love, in that respect, my father is a Baha'i, and I'm not. I was raised in that tradition, and that's exactly how you kind of declare into that, again, as a religion, not necessarily as what folks who are Freemasons or do there. So I very much appreciate that. I don't know if I've ever told you two that, but it's equally as much as I appreciate being the first non-Mason to join this roundtable. It's a delight, guys. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Hey,
Awesome.
one thing I did want to add, when you talked about using the square and compass in your artwork, your album art. One thing that when I was actually going through the degrees, I was a fan of a European house DJ group called the Freemasons, and in fact, here's one of their album covers, the album of Shakedown. And so you can search for music, Freemasons, and if you look very closely, you can see in their the O of Freemason, they use this.
Oh, look at that.
They have had an interview where they have declared they are not Freemasons. They took the idea from the Freemasons bar that's in downtown London. So, but they definitely respect the fraternity. But yeah, they have no problem making money off of our symbolism.
Well, if I can offer one more thing just on the name before you guys, I have to echo Brandon's sentiment, not just to get away from using any of the symbolism, but I've never looked at Fellowcraft as a Masonic band. Like, I've never saw us and thought, oh, we're a Mason band. We've played the House of the Temple. We've done a bunch of Masonic charity work, but we've also done diabetes charity. We've also dedicated to other causes of our own personally. So to Brandon's point, we come together regularly and try to figure out, like, what is it that we're interested in? What do we want to do? We let all three members shine. And it's something that I really, really, really enjoy about this. And I laugh because it was like that with Brandon. It was very much like he joined the band and we're like, dude, he's popping and slapping and doing stuff. And he would look at us like, hey, is it cool if I just do this? And we're like, dude, don't stop that. Whatever that was that you did, do more of that. So, and that's what our band's about. Like, Brian will bust out into a crazy drum fill, and we're like, no, we're going to drop out. We're just going to let you beat on these things for a little while. I get enough solos. Trust me, I'm a guitarist. I have plenty.
So, hey, before you open it up further, John, I just wanted to show you all the artwork for Angels and Airwaves, which is Tom DeLonge's band from formerly of Blink 182. They unabashedly use Masonic symbolism because Tom is reportedly a Freemason.
Mm.
So the interesting thing is, I've been to concerts where people have on A&A shirts where there are like teenage girls walking around with a square and compass on them, and I'm like,
how dare you?
No.
You know what I find funny about that? You said that he's reportedly a Mason. People say he's also purportedly a bastard.
Being a Mason doesn't make you a good dude.
Yeah.
It just means, well, I guess it should.
They should try it.
Buried the lead on that one. I love it.
Hey, so you brought up a good point.
Moving on.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about playing the House of the Temple. So you guys did play actually were the opening act for Celebrating the Craft last year. I'm going to assume you're also going to be doing some part in the program this year. But what was that like? What was that like playing in a big building, and what were the acoustics like? Is really the other question I had for you guys.
Well, I'll start by saying, A, I was scared out of my mind, and B, Brian.
So I guess I get to talk about this one because JR cracks me up because we talk about that gig, and for me, I was excited as all get out to be playing it. On TV, there's 4 different cameras. You got the whole red light on top of each one that's on, and they're changing. Like, it's a whole TV studio thing that's happening with the person in the back saying, "We're live in 30 seconds." Like, it's a whole experience. And it's in the House of the Temple, down in the basement, and they did a great job with acoustics as far as they had curtains up that kind of helped to dampen the sound, but they also do a great job with really professional sound. So I think one of my favorite stories, JR, you have to tell them about the guy who said the temple was rocking.
Yeah, the dude in the boiler room. So we played like our opening song, and then this guy who was working like the heating or air conditioning or the HVAC room came up, and he was like, "Hey, are you guys that rock band that's playing here?" And I said, "Yeah, he's a Southern boy." It sounded like one, and not that there's anything wrong with that. And he said, I said, yeah, we're Fellowcraft, thanks, appreciate it. He's like, man, House of the Temple's never rocked like this. And he just laughed, and I thought, well, that was awesome.
That's cool. Very, very cool.
It was cool. And the experience overall was amazing. They did a great job with the sound, and it really was one of those. I looked at it a once in a lifetime novel experience, and they've told us that we get to come back this year. So we certainly hope you guys will tune into the CTC this year again, because they're telling us we're going to be in for 2 or 3 songs this year, and we're just super stoked about it, especially now that we've experienced it before. But it really just such an honor to be invited in to do something like that in such a historic building. It's totally different from the bar gigs and the different venues that we play. This is it's a pretty incredible one to go into that building and rock as hard as we do.
So
You need to ask them for a headlining gig.
there you go. For those who are not listening to this on YouTube, if you look behind Brian's shoulder, he has his Yay Me wall, and of there is Scottish Rite cover photo for the recent Scottish Rite Journal, of which both he and J.R. McDonald are right on the front there. I guess that's last year's performance, right?
It had to have been, because I wasn't a member of the band yet.
Ah, that's why. I thought they just cut you out, Ringo.
With this face? No.
Non-Mason, not acknowledged.
So funny on that. So we put the album out, right? And for you guys, I'll hold it up for you guys. So this is Get Up Young Phoenix. This is our album, and I put the album out. And Brian and I, we've been friends forever, and a lot of my friends knew who he was, but a lot of my friends hadn't met Brandon because he had only been in the band at that time for a few months. Which I have to say, huge credit to Brandon, because he joined the band in June and was in the studio, and not just any studio, but the same studio that the Foo Fighters worked in, and Fugazi worked in, and Bad Brains, Minor Threat, and he was with us there. And I remember put the album out, and one of my friends from work went, "So who's the big dude on the right?" And I said something like, "Well, that's our bassist Brandon," and they went, like, "Mr. Olympia, apparently." Like, one of my friends from work was like, "Can he crack a walnut between his chest?"
The trick is you stand like this all the time, but then you push up with this hand, and that's what gives you your bulk. Brian works out for that. I just I push it. I push it real good.
Everyone needs a little extra support sometimes.
All right.
Thanks, bro.
Jason and I have been chatting a lot with these guys. Juan, Robert, you want to chime in? Any questions you had for the band?
Yes, JR, you mentioned that you didn't think of the band particularly as a Masonic band, but do you have songs that have lyrics in it that are Masonic, and if so, what proportion of them are Masonic and completely not Masonic? So.
That's a good one. Brian and I worked together to write a song called "The Dying of the Light," which is one of our best songs. We usually play it either as an opener or as a closer, and it's an homage to a Dylan Thomas poem that I read growing up, which was rage against the dying of the light. And when Brian and I were writing it, as you guys know, and for Brandon, light is a significant reference in Masonry, the idea of gaining knowledge, but not just knowledge. In this song, we talked a lot about overcoming your fear of death, the idea that all men are mortal, and in the end, you don't have to go quietly. So Brian and I sat down and we wrote some lines up, and one of my favorite lines in the entire song is in the second verse, where it said, "They lie to the night, and yet they all abide," which is a line that Brian and I wrote together about all men must die. And then after that, the waves of sand wash gosh, man, Brian's going to laugh at me because I always forget the words to this song. But,
this is me laughing.
The waves of time wash the sands of life so dry, which is an homage to me or to the Masons, in a way of saying that we all toil this earth, right? We all work it, but life itself seems to just make it all one flat. It levels the playing field, if you will, and that's where I find the Masonic. Brian might see it a little differently, like I said when we first started writing it, but that's my take.
And I'll just add that the Dying of the Light is the one that seems to be a good Masonic innuendo in there. And most of our inspiration comes from our personal lives, which obviously we do draw on Masonry some, but all good music comes from heartbreak and from crazy life events, and many of those are JR's life events. But we all kind of have a stake in them. So the songs kind of run the gamut. And I would say if you're checking out the album for a Masonic innuendo, Dying of the Light is going to be probably the one that would be most prominent in that area. So I encourage you to check it out. There's a lot of fun. You got to check out the West Texas Blues because, of course, that's connected to the soundtrack that you guys listen to in these episodes, which is we just have an absolute blast with it. But
that is a really good story, actually. When you guys want to get to that one,
why don't you set that up since we're right there?
All right.
I'll give the audience a cue here. So you go ahead and describe it, and then I'll get it all set up.
I have been playing blues for a long time. I'm an avid blues lover. I love all things about the blues. Like I joked earlier in the green room, as you guys, the green room, about Robert Johnson's name, and the first time I watched the Roundtable and went, there he is, Mr. Robert Johnson himself, and it reminded me of the great Robert Johnson, Delta blues singer. So I played a 1-4-5 riff for years. It's one of my favorite riffs. Every guitarist has one. Mine is a 1-4-5 in the key of E, and it's just my favorite thing to play. And when Jason and I were getting together initially, he asked me, he's like, "Hey, you want to cut some music for the Roundtable?" I said, "Yeah, man, it'd be awesome." So we sat in my studio apartment, the same place that our first singles were cut as Fellowcraft. And Jason played the drums, the bass, and I think the second guitar. So
yeah, I layered some of the rhythm.
Yeah, and I played kind of the whiny, like high-pitched notes that I'm known for, and I used my GarageBand software and we tweaked it out. But
so JR, how come I never heard of this Jason character? I mean, I've heard about Matt and Lawrence, but never anything about Jason.
I never have anything bad to say about Jason.
The man's loyal.
I mean, I love JR to death. I helped mentor him through his degrees in the craft. When we had just started out on the Masonic Roundtable, and we were about 10 or so episodes in, and people were clamoring for an audio-only podcast. And I said, okay, well, let's give them an audio-only podcast. But I realized, okay, Ex Oriente has intro and outro music. Whence Came You has intro and outro music. Well, we need intro and outro music, but it can't suck. And I'm not saying that Eric's or Robert's intro outro music sucks, but I wanted something where we didn't have to worry about the choice between MIDI or copyright infringement. So I just naturally said, okay, well, I'll just record some myself. And I know that JR has extensive experience with bands. He's a Mason. He's got some spare time, so let's just rock this out. So I give him a call and said, hey, I need to record some intro and outro music for a podcast for this new thing we're doing. And so went over to JR's studio apartment, lugged actually none of my gear because you had all the gear. No, I brought my bass.
You did bring your bass.
I brought my bass, and that was about the only thing I brought. And we went through about 2 or 3 different chord progression iterations, and then settled on the blues riff that we started with.
So yeah, I know we won't have a chance to get into much of the tracks tonight, but since we talked about West Texas Blues, I think I'll go ahead and play a little sample of that, and then we can get back to finishing out the show. How's that sound? All right. Let me pull this up on my phone here. Hopefully the tech works. Stand by.
down old Christopher Road. Ski trees on the hillside and rattlesnakes on the road. And they tell me all the time he waits for no man. Nobody tells him when and where to go. That old man seems to take his sweet ass time out here in San Angelo.
Awesome.
The bass gets way more intricate, just so you know, Jason. I mean, so you know.
Actually, I really like the solo riff you do.
It's way better live.
I gotta
We're a
say,
live band.
hands down. If you, I have to say it out loud for all the viewers on the podcast. If you're curious, if you're sitting there, if you're thinking, man, I really want to hear Fellowcraft, we have a lot of really good, loud songs. But just pull up your Spotify or iTunes or whatever it is and check out Glass Houses. Just listen to that song. And it's one of our slower songs, and but it's still loud, it's still intricate. You're gonna hear some of the best bass work I've ever heard, and I've been playing music for years. So and not just bass, but like the guitar and the drums. Like I really feel like as a band, that's probably one of my favorite songs on the record, because it's Fellowcraft is such a juxtaposition. Three guys from three very different backgrounds, three very different styles of music that make one core product.
And I gotta give Brandon a couple of quick shout outs for you listening. There's two funny stories about the bass. One is that when we submitted, we wanted some reviews to go with our press releases, and when people heard the West Texas Blues, the second solo on the West Texas Blues is a bass solo. And everybody who reviewed heard that and loves it. They all talk about how freaking awesome the bass solo is. So if you check out the bass solo on West Texas Blues, you can actually hear it on our website if you want to check it out, fellowcraftband.com. And then the other one that's been really interesting for us is Brandon does an absolutely incredible job tapping the bass and doing the most amazing bass solo, which JR alluded to in Glass Houses, the track. Toward the end of the track, and one of the really funny things is that the reviewers have somehow didn't realize that it was a bass making sounds like that, because he doesn't always follow the rules and stay down in the bass octaves. He comes up, he does all kinds of interesting things, and it's been really interesting to see that they don't seem to pick up on the fact that that's actually a bass making that sound, which is pretty incredible.
And this is what I know of Masons, guys who are just way, way too nice to people who don't really deserve it. The only thing I'll say is that come out, not always deserve it.
We can be jerks too.
Yeah. So the only thing I'll say is, like, come out. The type of energy you get from Mac and Brian, you won't see from any other. I mean, I don't think you see a trio with this kind of energy, and it's so much fun that they let me kind of wander around on some of the things you were just talking about, because I mean, it doesn't happen if you don't have like really great, solid musicians who already have all that together when you come in. So come out and see us around the DC area. Bar gigs on the weekends, Rock and Roll Hotel on April 30th if you're around. It's absolutely a blast to hang out and jump around live.
Good. Hey, I'm going to let Robert jump in because he's been holding back this whole time. So, Robert, do you have anything for the band before we start to wrap things up?
No, just enjoyed really hearing about the success. And, you know, I've been a musician since I was 12 years old when I got my first guitar, and I love that you guys are making it happen, and it's always awesome to hear about, you know, a band that has so much spirit and like is really focused on the music, and that you guys are getting, you know, some really cool opportunities. And for Freemasons, to have a couple guys, you know, Masons in a band, it's pretty neat, especially a good band. To be, you know, on Celebrate the Craft and doing neat things like that, and the ability that, you know, you guys are a great band. I listened to your album, I think 2 weeks ago. Streamed it off iTunes. It was a really great album. I think you guys did a phenomenal job. So just keep up the great work, and who knows, maybe one day you'll all be Masons. But then you'll have to change your names. You have to change names.
I like Brandon Williams. I
do too. I love these guys. Robert, thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert.
It means a lot, and I can't thank the Masons enough. They've opened a lot of doors. I mean, to Brandon's point, like they taught me a lot, and yeah, we are exceptionally good to our friends and those close to us. But I think it's taught me Jason, who I can't thank enough. All these years, like all
You're
the
gonna
years
make me cry, man.
No, but all these years,
Stop it.
all these
Stop
years
it.
that I've been a Mason, like Jason has always been there to like offer advice and words of counsel, and every time even when like my favorite is when I think I've got something kind of cold-blooded, and I'm like, man, this is sting, and Jason's like, let's not be too hasty now, or something like that.
Jason does that. He does a good job of that.
So I can't think, and I want to thank you guys too, but I think the whole craft. I mean, it's a shame in some cases that some of our members are jerks, but the fact of the matter is that doesn't mean that we have to be. And I'm really, really, really proud to be a DC Mason. Really proud. Our lodges and our Grand Master. I could not be more proud of Grand Master Fuller. So from me to you.
I've got a couple of things that I just want to chime in on. One is that I just had a flashback. JR and Jason, I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you remember this, but way back when JR was considering entering the craft, I remember getting together at I think it was the World of Beer in Ballston.
World of Beer with Kevin Fries.
There you go.
Kevin Fries, sorry.
Kevin Fries, who was the worshipful master of our lodge at the time,
yes,
or my lodge at the time, because JR wasn't a Mason, so it was Federal Lodge #1, and you three guys, and we just talked Masonry for, God, I don't even know, a couple of hours. It was one of the coolest happy hours, and that was way back in the beginning, way before Fellowcraft, the band, started, and it was just way back in the beginning. So I've got fond memories of that one that I want to share, because that's a great one.
I was still wet behind the ears at that point.
Me too. I'm right there with you. I'm glad we had our worshipful master there to field the questions that were a little over our head. That was good.
All right, Jason. Finish it.
The one other thing that I wanted to share with folks that's been really cool about Fellowcraft is that we've been a DC band for the longest time, and one of the things we realized is that when we recorded an album and put it out, iTunes, Spotify, we now have an audience that's bigger than Washington, D.C. So one of the things that's been cool is to kind of see us adapt and watch us evolve from that. So we've taken more to our YouTube channel. We just put up a couple of videos from our album release show. So if you follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we do Instagram. The really cool resources, if you go to fellowcraftband.com and sign up for the email list, we send out updates. And the stuff that we send is stuff that you can enjoy, and news updates that aren't necessarily just here's our next show, but here's the latest with the band, here's the videos we have. And so we really have had a lot of fun reaching out beyond just the DC crowd. So we're excited to have you guys as a part of this whole thing. It's been amazing.
I'm looking to send out recipes, probably.
Their mailing list is pretty sweet. I'm on it.
More great puns from me, really.
Nice. Okay, Jason, why don't you see what's going on social media, and we'll start to wrap things up.
All right, we've got our Masonic meme bombing tonight. What's the worst thing about being a Fellowcraft? You're always one of the usual suspects. Bump, bump, bump. Third degree joke. Moving on. Adam Thayer, we really appreciate him manning up and watching the Masonic Roundtable instead of the latest season of Archer or Daredevil.
Yeah, seriously, I almost didn't even come on, guys. I wanted to see Archer so bad.
Archer's worth it.
So if you are interested in checking out the album for Get Up Young Phoenix, we've got it linked here on our show page for episode 111, Fellowcraft Band. And I'll leave it with one of our Sparklight winners, Chris Streeper, who was actually one of the winners who got one of the downloads of the Fellowcraft album. And he says it's fantastic. He listens to it nearly every day when he's working, and most of the time several times in a row.
Dang.
So you've got a lot of brethren that absolutely love your stuff.
Can I
Chris
ask you
and
again?
everybody, thank you very much.
I want to ask one question. My question
Just one.
is, will you guys ever put a hidden track on a CD like it's 1991?
Absolutely.
We almost did it on the record. I'll give you one. It's on there, but it's not really hidden. So We recorded this record on analog tape, which is good and bad depending on how you look at it. But I'm a sucker for spending a lot of money to sound really, really bad. So, but if you listen to the Dying of Light, and this is one of the, I mean, maybe it's Masonic, maybe it's not, but if you listen to Dying of Light, turn up the volume at the very, very end. It ends on a dime, right? The song just cuts out right there on that E, because I'm a sucker for the key of E. And at the very end, you hear me and Brian laughing. And they didn't cut the tape. And Brandon's still sitting there with the bass like, dude, shut up, you guys. and Brian and I are like, ooh, baby. and you have to really crank your speakers to hear it, but it's in there. And to me, I can draw a Masonic tie to it, but one of the things we always say is how great it is when the brethren come together. And we had so much fun in that studio, the three of us. We had a blast. 2 days never felt so short. And I can't tell you how much it meant to me and how much it means to hear positive reviews like that. I mean, it just touches my heart. I'm absolutely humbled, beyond belief.
Thank you, Chris Reaper. Yeah, and others. I appreciate it, too.
Very cool. Okay, I think it's about that time. We're coming close to the hour mark, so let's let our guests actually have the first say in kind of wrapping things up and doing your shameless plug. You guys have been doing a great job of routing us to where we can find the album. But why don't you do it one last time as we start to head home? And we'll let Brandon go ahead.
I defer to Brian. Fellowcraftband.com is where you go. Click on the music link. You can listen to it for free. You can listen to it on Spotify. You can download it, buy it, take it with you. Check out our show dates if you're in the DC area. We'd love to see you. I'll even give you my bass to play. Who knows?
Awesome, Brian.
And we strategically did it to make it as easy as possible. If you go to fellowcraftband.com and you click on the music link, the direct links to Fellowcraft at every resource are there. So whether you like iTunes, Spotify, or you're into iHeartRadio, the Fellowcraft Radio is a pretty sweet thing that I've been playing with lately. But we make it as easy as possible. But definitely, we've started a news page. If you join our email list, you'll get the news updates too, and we try to make sure we share with folks. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the website and the email list are the ways. And we don't post the same thing everywhere. So it's different news in different places. We try to keep it fresh. But we're just, and I'm so humbled and honored and thankful to be a guest. Thank you guys very much for this opportunity and for having us on. This is a really cool thing, and brothers across the country and the world who are listening, it is an honor to reach out to you like this.
Thanks, Brian. JR?
I'm going to echo Brian. The website's the place to go. My favorite, if I had to pick one, is our Instagram. We try as a band to try to have as much fun with our fans and friends and family as we can. We realize that the reason that we get to keep playing, the real reason that we get to keep getting these bookings like Rock and Roll Hotel, April 30th, is that we have a lot of fun with our friends and family and fans. And if you follow us on Instagram, you can just look up Fellowcraft Band. You won't miss it. Is the Fan Friday, which is every Friday we try to take a picture of someone who's come to our shows at a great time, and we're always trying to spin it around to kind of show how much we care about the people that actually listen and enjoy our music. And I can't thank people enough for the comments, the kind comments, the gentleman that won the record. I mean, it touches my heart. And you guys have all been, I mean, John, Jason, you guys have been huge in my life, not just as a Mason, but as a man. And I can't thank you guys enough. Robert, Juan, and thanks for having me on the show. I really, really appreciate it. And for us, I mean, we'll see you at CTC, I'm sure.
Excellent. Hey, guys, thanks again. Jason, take us home.
All right. Well, just wanted to share something real quick, and it's just the first one that I could find. This is JR before he got his Fellowcraft degree. So.
And that's what he looks like without a hat on, guys. Check it out.
Yeah.
There he is.
Very rare sighting. Very, very rare sighting.
Yeah, so he's got a little bit more of a beard now too, a couple more tattoos. But JR, just wanted to kind of bring this back home. You've been a good friend of mine for going on 6 years now, 6.5 actually, and I may have helped teach you your craft Masonically, but you taught me my craft vocationally.
I didn't think we. Quiet, man. Come
Boom.
on.
That's deep.
Boom.
And we'll leave it at that.
It's deep. JR has been instrumental in my life and my work. So in more ways than he knows. So I'm happy to have you all as friends, and 2 of you as brothers and 1 of you as almost a brother.
You were, for those listening and watching, Jason was one of my best students. I mean, he was awesome, just an eager, absolute rock star in the classroom. So.
I'll pay you later.
Oh, come on, you know that's the truth.
All right, thank you, Jason. And Robert, his sons play Minecraft. Robert, what are your thoughts?
Where that came from, I don't know. Robert Johnson, you guys all know the podcast I do, so I just want to use the time to say thanks to the band taking time to come on to talk to us about the 6th science music, right? I think we did an episode on music, and I think this is a better one. We have some actual musicians. Like I said, it's really cool to talk to musicians who are out there and they're playing, and you guys you're blossoming. You have this album out now, and you're going. There's nowhere you're not. I mean, if you have the internet, you're there. So you guys are international now. Really cool. I wish you guys all the success, and if you guys ever need anything, we're here for you too. So thanks so much for coming on, guys.
And Robert, I wanted to give you a personal thanks for having me on as your guest this week.
Yeah, so you guys should come and watch or listen. You can't watch my show. Go listen to last week's episode of Whence Came You, 237, I think it is. It's called Searching for John Ruark. It was my savant reference from Bobby Fischer, but it's John Ruark in numbers. So little joke. I hope you guys enjoy it. But it was a great interview, and thanks for making the time, John, and for all the effort.
I appreciate it. Last but not least for tonight, Juan.
I've been quiet here, but I've been really enjoying listening to you brothers, and I think you can tell when you come across a creator that really is passionate about what they create. You can see it in the way that they speak. You can see it in the way that they think about it. That they feel that privilege that they can communicate in that way with their audience. And I commend you, gentlemen, because it's evident, and it's a nice forum to see it in, because one thing is for you to listen to the music, another one is for you to hear the rapport between the members and kind of like get it. It's like, yeah, that's where it comes from. So I hope that everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. I look forward to one day listening to it live. So hopefully when I finally make it up to DC, you guys have something going on. So thank you for joining us, and to say goodbye, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure that you share this show with brothers. If you know someone who likes rock music, who likes the blues, who likes all these influences in their music, make sure you to point them to the Fellowcraft band website. And also let us know what you think by going to the Masonic Roundtable.com and leaving a comment there. And finally, go to freemasonryr.com. Very soon I'm going to be posting some new pictures of new work that's coming out. Just to give you a hint, out of the collection of the old pages, there's something in the works. So make sure to go to freemasonryr.com and sign up for the email so you don't miss out. Thank you, brothers.
Super exciting. Awesome. I'll always look forward to the new stuff, Juan.
Thank you.
Guys, we've gone long enough. You guys have been great. Thank you very much, Fellowcraft Band, for being on. Thank you much for the hosts that have been here. And if you like the show, help support the show with our brand new pins that we have, our third and final run. And that you can find that at theMasonicRoundtable.com. Thank you very much for watching, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.